So let's talk Greyhound. PG-13, hour and 31 minutes, which is interesting for a World War II movie. Usually these war movies, it's like usually pushing 3 hours. It's an action drama history genre. Came out July 10th. So this is this past Friday. It hit Apple TV Plus. It's based on the 1955 novel The Good Shepherd by C.S. Forester, which is interesting. This is interesting that a novel that old finally got its due. It was directed by Aaron Schneider, and I didn't write down his other credits. Sorry. Interesting enough, it was written by Tom Hanks, which I don't know that he's written any other screenplays, but Hanks also plays Commander Ernest Krause, commanding officer of the Greyhound. You have Stephen Graham, who the name probably doesn't ring a bell, but he's a very familiar face, and he plays Lieutenant Commander Charlie Cole, who is Krause's executive officer. Elisabeth Shue has I guess it's a pretty major part, though she doesn't have a lot of screen time. She plays Evelyn, Ernest's love interest, which I also found that kind of weird because it's like, isn't Tom Hanks like 60 something? He's got to be in his 60s by now, right? Or at least upper 50s. And I don't think Elisabeth Shue is that old, but maybe she is. I don't know. I just get a little uneasy with that kind of age difference, which is saying a lot because it's like I'm married to someone who's 6 years younger than me. So it's like, get over it. Not a whole lot of other big names that pop out at me. Oh, Chet Hanks. Chet Hanks is in this movie as Bushnell. Don't remember him. It's kind of tough because like everyone's in uniform and they all have the same kind of haircut. And the focus is on Tom Hanks the entire film. So it's like you don't really get to, other than like the sonar guy, the messenger guy, and maybe his executive officer, they spent some time with the mess hall cook who's constantly preparing Tom Hanks meals. And Tom Hanks is just like too in his own head to eat, which that got to me the most out of everything. It was like this cook is describing some delicious dishes, and Tom Hanks wants nothing to do with it because he's just too busy thinking about that game plan. Had a budget of $50.3 million. It was initially scheduled to be theatrically released in the U.S. by Sony Pictures under the Columbia Pictures title on March 22nd, 2019. Ooh. It was delayed to May 8th, and it was delayed to June 12th. And then finally in May, Apple TV acquired the distribution rights for $70 million. Ooh. The critics' consensus from Rotten Tomatoes: Greyhound's characters aren't as robust as its action sequences, but this fast-paced World War II thriller benefits from its efficiently economical approach. 80% of critics gave it a favorable review with an average rating of 6.39 out of 10. 79% of the audience gave it a favorable review with a 3.95 out of 5 average rating. I would say that's spot on. Yeah, I'd be right around there as well. This is the 5th time that Tom Hanks has played a captain. Previous times were Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, Captain Phillips, and Sully. If you also count him as the captain of the shrimp boat Jenny and Forrest Gump, that actually is his 6th time. I love that trivia tidbit. It's like that guy that's as thorough as you can get. Yeah, one critic said Dunkirk or 1917, this is not, but as a window onto an under-acknowledged arena of combat and a starting point for armchair military historians, Greyhound is seaworthy enough to make it across. A lot of people are calling this like a dad movie. One critic said this is Crimson Tide meets Mad Max Fury Road, which I think is a great description, but I don't think it lives up to that description at all. It's nonstop. It's pretty much nonstop action like Mad Max Fury Road, with not a whole lot of dialogue that would reveal character, but it's just barreling forward, just pushing the story forward through action. And Crimson Tide, I think I remember we watched Crimson Tide like in the past 2 years or so, and it's reminiscent of Crimson Tide, and that is a cat and mouse type chase game where it's like, he's moving here, we're going to move there. He's moving there, I'm going to move this way. It's a battle of wits and wills, you could say. One critic said this is a war film driven by abhorrence of war rather than bloodlust or jingoism. And you look at Tom Hanks when they throw the depth charges over the side and knock out the first U-boat, German U-boat. How they determine that it's a hit is they look for oil from the U-boat. And so that when they see the big pool of oil, they know it's a hit. We got them. And you could see like there's a good portion of the soldiers of the Navy that are cheering or they're happy. But you look at Tom Hanks and he's like, he's got that look of like, you know, I didn't want to have to do it, but I had to do it. And it's like, it's sad that that had to happen, you know? And he's also a holy man. He's a very religious dude in this movie. I think the first time we see him, he's on his knees praying. He's got the Bible. The last time we see him in the movie, spoiler, he's praying with the Bible. Yeah, it was funny because there were also like the scenes where I don't know how this happens, but like the Germans from the U-boat can just communicate to them on their ship through radio, and like they speak fairly decent English, and they're just taunting and talking shit and trash to the Americans and the British over the radios on their ships. I thought that was like, how does that happen? How's that possible? So the Germans are talking shit from this Grey Wolf U-boat and saying like, we're going to kill you. And we're going to like celebrate and bathe in your blood. Like really just graphics shit that they're talking to Tom Hanks and the crew on the Greyhound. And it's like the way that it was shot, you wouldn't know that when they finally, like the last U-boat that they take out, is that the Grey Wolf? And like, you almost feel like you don't get that satisfaction of like, yeah, we got you, motherfucker. Like, we got you, Grey Wolf. Like, there was none of that. And I guess that's the point. It just, I think from a viewer audience standpoint, and especially as someone was never a soldier, was not in war, that I just don't understand that perspective. Where it would have been nice, I guess, from a storyline standpoint, to have been like, we got him. You know, just like even saying that, like, we got him. Just some kind of acknowledgement that they finally got Grey Wolf, because you don't get that satisfaction in this movie. I mean, spoiler, you know, they end up, I assume they end up getting Grey Wolf. I don't know. It was very confusing because they throw a lot of text on screen, but it's like white text on a white background, and it's for not a long time. They just kind of flashed up there for like 2 seconds and it's gone. So you have to really pay attention, and like, you know, it doesn't help that your eyes are failing you, Neal. So that was a bit disappointing. Is like, can you just use a different font or color font or something just so I can keep up with this? Because it is confusing. And you know, that's probably part of it. It's like, I can't imagine if you're actually like on the boat and you got to determine what's what. Like, what is that ship? What is that? What the hell is that? And I had text on the screen. I didn't know what was going on. Another critic said it was repetitive, though still absorbing dramatically, which, yeah, I mean, the repetitive is just, it starts to wear on you a little bit, because it's like the sonar guy is saying like heading 091, 15 and 20 miles. And then you hear the messenger guy get that message and say to Tom Hanks, heading 091, 15, 20 miles. And then you have another guy say heading 091. It's just like, all right, we get it. I can't imagine writing that screenplay as Tom Hanks. Just like, all right, first screenplay, I'm just going to do a military movie. And that way I can just, I could write like, I don't know, 50 pages of dialogue, but I know that they repeat it 3 times and that'll be 150 pages of dialogue. And then boom, movie. But I do love when the sonar guy is talking to the messenger and the messenger like sneezes, and there's like that 5-second delay where people are like, what did he say? Like, don't ever do that again. Like, don't sneeze again. Okay, no problem. Parts of the drama play out on its star's face, and they're the best parts because there's no one better at portraying a good man's self-doubts and a frightened man's courage. I mean, yeah, Tom Hanks gives an awesome performance in this. Greyhound doesn't move you emotionally the same way a war film like Saving Private Ryan does, but it still fulfills its purpose. Yeah, I did not get the same vibe as Saving Private Ryan. There wasn't it just wasn't there. And I think it's because you didn't really get to know a lot of the cast. Even like the Ernest Krause character that Tom Hanks plays, you get to see like that one flashback of him with Evelyn at Christmas time. And that's like it. When I saw that it was 1 hour and 31, I was like, this is super interesting that they're going to do this in that amount of time. Because I feel like if they just they could have tacked on 15 to 30 minutes, I think. A cool 2 hours for this film, that's fine. I mean, the action sequences were there, but it would have been, I think having more flashbacks to his character, would have been nice. I think the fact that he was like up for like 3 or 4 days straight needed to be emphasized a little bit more. They kept like hitting you with he hasn't eaten and like he's just drinking coffee, you would think there'd be a little more mistakes. I mean, shit, like if I don't get enough, if I don't get my 7 hours of sleep, I'm making mistakes left and right. So can you imagine like 3 or 4 days without sleep and no food and just coffee? Like, is he just pissing like fire? So I was hoping to see more of that toll. You could see it's taking a toll on him, but it doesn't seem like the correct toll. Also, I would like to see more of like his relationship with, I guess it was Cleveland. Was it Cleveland? I forget. But it seemed like there was some kind of relationship there that really hit home for him. And I don't know. They didn't, it seemed like they opted for, we're just going to give you action. And we're not going to like get too creative or stray too much from the action because we want to explore all these characters that ultimately this movie is not about. It's about this main character, the captain. You know, the words that are sprinkled throughout these reviews: effective, seaworthy, lean, economical. Like the K9, Greyhound, it's trim, narrow of scope, and runs efficiently and well despite a barrage of on-screen timestamps and vessel identification markers. Many of which you can't friggin' see. Here's some trivia. When the captain refers to Huff Duff, he's referring to high frequency direction finding. This was a key method of how Allied naval forces detected and tracked German U-boats. The Kriegsmarine's U-boat fleet maintained a high amount of radio traffic with its shore command and with each other for their Wolfpack tactics against Allied shipping. Huff Duff allowed Allied naval ships to detect those radio transmissions and determine the location of those transmitting ships to attack them. Which is weird because that friggin' Grey Wolf U-boat was constantly communicating with them through their radio. You'd think they would be able to pinpoint them better. In one sequence, I thought this was interesting. The movie shows the U-boat passing close to the Greyhound to be under its cannon and immune to fire. However, in reality, when this naval tactic was performed, the captain would order hard rudder to cause the boat to list, thereby bringing the cannon down to bear. This is a centuries-old practice counter maneuver. Maneuvers demonstrated in many an old pirate or naval battle movie. So I think the person who wrote that trivia was like, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't hard rudder to list to bring the cannon down to bear. I need to let the world know that that was a missed opportunity. This is the second World War II movie where there is a climactic battle scene where Tom Hanks is rescued from potentially certain death by an airstrike via fighter planes. There was one sequence, though, where Tom Hanks is talking to the rest of the crew and he's like, they're just waiting. The U-boats are just waiting. They're keeping their distance. They're not attacking us during the daylight. They're waiting for nightfall and they're going to attack us then. And we got like a glimpse of it and then they just fade to black and we're just going to like cut to the morning. And it's like, so they just, how did they survive that? That seems like that would have been the worst of the worst during the nightfall. And we only got a little taste. I would have liked to see how they got through that shit. Overall, a good movie though. I mean, I liked it a lot. It's just like, could have been so much better.